Step into the shadows with me for a second. Welcome to our latest explainer. Today, we're decoding a deeply sophisticated and, honestly, pretty provocative breakdown of modern attraction and power dynamics. We're basing this on some absolutely fascinating source material. Think of this as the intersection of human behavior, raw desire, and leverage. It's got this dark, luxurious, almost mysterious tension to it, right? We're going to strip away all the noise and look at the unspoken rules of the dating market. If you've ever wondered about the hidden psychological currents that dictate who chases, who chooses, and who ultimately wins the game of attraction, well, you are definitely in the right place. Let's unravel this mystery together. So consider this fundamental question. What is the actual, true motive behind the painful heels, the insanely expensive dress, and the 2 hours spent on makeup before a night out? Is it really just about looking good? According to the behavioral analysis in our source material, the answer is way more complex and way more strategic. As an analyst looking at this, I can tell you the source argues this intense preparation isn't just a simple search for a partner. No, it's a highly calculated entry into a super competitive social marketplace. But to understand what's actually being traded in this market, we first have to figure out why so many modern interactions are just failing. Okay, let's dive into Section 1, the crisis of initiative. The source material outlines this massive historical shift in male behavior that has completely flipped the dynamic of dating. They suggest there is a profound, almost paralyzing crisis of confidence happening right now. To illustrate this, the source draws a pretty stark contrast. On one side, we have the men of past generations. These guys were highly physical, decisive, working 12-hour days, and then spending their weekends literally building houses. They had this unstoppable forward momentum. Opposing them, the source paints a picture of the modern man, anxious, paralyzed by micro-decisions, absolutely terrified of rejection, and overanalyzing everything, from the sugar content in his soy yogurt to whether his eyebrows are perfectly plucked. It's presented with a bit of dark humor, sure, but the underlying argument is incredibly serious. Modern men have basically replaced decisive action with paralyzing fear. And the inevitable fallout of all this paralysis? Less initiative leads straight to a massive loss of connection. The source posits that women are actually left feeling kind of defrauded by this lack of masculine drive. When a man is too timid to approach, or too worried about saying the wrong thing, or just completely wrapped up in his own anxieties, that forward momentum you need to spark attraction, it just dies. This lack of initiative isn't just a personal failing. The source views it as a total systemic breakdown in how men and women connect. But to fix it, we have to understand what actually sparks that connection.
Which brings us to Section 2. The economy of attention.
So we're moving away from the crisis and into the actual mechanics of desire. In this economy, money and looks, they're secondary. They take a backseat to a much more powerful, invisible currency. Remember those hours of preparation, the heels, the makeup? Our source argues that the prize she's seeking is attention. But, and this is absolutely crucial, it's not just about getting attention from men. It's about securing more attention than the other women in the room. It's the primary prize in this silent, aesthetic social competition. When other women look at her with envy, that's a win. And interestingly enough, when men look at her but are too intimidated to approach, that is also a massive success for her.
And that brings us to the exact trap so many guys fall into. The source says, when you look and don't dare, she has won. Let that just sink in for a second. According to this framework, if you give a woman your gaze, your awe, and your attention, but you don't have the courage to walk up and speak to her, you've just handed her the ultimate currency for absolutely free. You have validated her status while simultaneously lowering your own. Basically, you've given away your power without speaking a single word. All right, shifting gears to Section 3, the power of walking away. So, how do you reclaim that power? The source breaks down the tactical execution. It's all about controlling and restricting the flow of that currency. And they give us 3 distinct steps. First up, approach without fear. Unlike women, the source notes, men are rarely judged by their peers for confidently approaching someone. Second, provide measured attention. You give just enough to show you're interested, but definitely not enough to completely validate her. And third, this is the masterstroke right here. Be willing to withdraw it. The text advises interacting briefly, and then just casually saying, I'll be right back, and walking away to join your friends. By initiating the contact and then restricting the attention, you totally invert the power dynamic.
The source actually gives us these highly specific verbal cues to use if the interaction feels unbalanced. If she's giving you short answers, acting defensive, or just not really investing, the text suggests saying something bold like, this conversation promised more, Or simply, I'm getting a bit bored, shall we leave? Notice the stark contrast there. The source claims that vocalizing your willingness to withdraw your attention often makes the other person suddenly lean in. They start investing heavily, basically chasing the attention you're threatening to take away.
Now, I need to make something crystal clear. Actually, scratch that. The source makes this crystal clear. This is not about memorizing some cheap pickup line or using toxic emotional manipulation. The words literally don't matter if the intent isn't real. True leverage requires a massive mindset shift. You have to genuinely, 100%, be willing to leave the interaction entirely. If you're secretly desperate for her approval, she's going to feel it, and the whole thing falls apart. You have to value your own time so highly that walking away from a bad investment is effortless.
To back up why this aloof, high-value behavior works, the source cites this absolutely fascinating piece of psychological research called the attractiveness multiplier. It's a photographic social proof experiment. Basically, women were asked to rate the physical attractiveness of men in photos. When a man was photographed alone, he got a baseline score. But when that exact same man was photographed surrounded by other women, his attractiveness score completely skyrocketed. It's the undeniable power of pre-selection. It proves that demonstrating you have options objectively makes you more desirable.
Let's move on to Section 4, Embracing Rejection. Look, the source acknowledges that the fear of rejection is universal. We all feel it. But how a high-status individual processes that fear, that's what separates success from failure. We see two incredibly divergent paths here. Yielding to fear means doing nothing, hovering on the sidelines, or maybe trying exactly once, getting shut down and retreating forever. Acting despite fear, though, means accepting rejection as just a standard, inevitable part of the game. The source insists that successful people aren't immune to fear. They just refuse to let it stop their forward momentum. They know not every interaction is a win, and they are completely fine with that. Which leads us to Section 5, Leading with Authenticity. Once you strip away the fear of rejection and truly understand the value of your own attention, you unlock the supreme confidence required to be unapologetically honest. The rules here are simple. State your intentions clearly. Don't fake what you think she wants to hear. Own your desires. The source is incredibly blunt about this. If you want a traditional relationship and kids, say it. If you're just looking for casual fun, say it. The text even uses the extreme example of wanting a threesome. It argues that stating your authentic desires clearly, without trying to trick anyone, projects the ultimate level of status. Women are so used to men molding their opinions just to get approval that genuine, unapologetic honesty acts as a massive signal of high value. As we pull all these threads together, we land on this climactic summary statement from the text. Let this really sink in. The price of being attractive is embracing rejection. Think about it. You cannot have that high-status allure, that mysterious tension, or any genuine connection without paying the toll. And that toll is the absolute willingness to put yourself out there, state exactly what you want, and be completely unfazed if the answer is no. Which leaves us with one final, lingering thought. We've explored the crisis of confidence, the immense value of your attention, the power of walking away, and the absolute necessity of authenticity. The source material lays out the mechanics of this economy of desire so clearly. The rules of the market are set. The only question left for you to answer is this: are you ready to stop giving your attention away for free? Thanks for hanging out and exploring this with me today. I'll see you in the next explainer.